Hello everyone, welcome to another section of this tutorial. Now we've been able to download and install the Figma application for our UX and UI designs, right? Now as a UX and UI designer, you need to get Figma. You need Figma in your pocket because Figma is a flexible tool that will bring out the creativity in you. It contains flexible tools that can make your design process easy, right? And it is user friendly, suitable for beginners, right? So as a UX and a UI designer, there are some terms you need to understand. There are some terms you need to familiarize yourself with, right? So I'm going to be talking about those terms in this section, right? Now, first thing first, you'd ask yourself, what is UX, right? What is UX? Now, UX refers to user experience. Now, what is user experience? User experience revolves around the overall interaction a user has with a product. The overall interaction a user has with a product. Now, some of you would confuse yourself, right, in this process, but I'm going to try as much as possible to make it easy for you. Now, UX is different from UI, right? But they both need to come together for you to boldly say that you are a product designer, right? You need to familiarize with the tool for you to boldly say you are a product designer. You can't learn UX without UI, right? And you can't learn UI without UX. So they both should come together, right? They both should be digested together as one, if you understand what I mean. So UX revolves around the overall interaction a user has with a product. Now, it encompasses usability, functionality, and emotional response of a user. This focus on making products functional, accessible, and enjoyable to use. Now, the user experience encompasses usability, functionality, and emotional response of a user. It is like the general function of a product, the general function of the software, the general function of the website. The usability, how is the user going to use it, right? It even involves the research process. That is user experience. The research process. How will my user, or how will the user interact with my product, right? How will the user interact with my product? That is the user experience. Now, this brings us to the UI, which refers to user interface. User interface. Now you would ask yourself, since the user experience involves the interaction between the user and the product, the overall interaction, right, between the user and the product, which encompasses usability, functionality, and emotional response of the user. What then is UI? UI focuses on the visual elements like buttons, toggles, icons, the visual elements that the user interacts with. This involves the visual elements the user interacts with. The visual elements of a product the user interacts with, such as icons, buttons, or toggles, etc. Buttons, toggles, etc. Now, the user experience involves the overall interaction, right, of a product. The overall interaction a user has with the product. How will the product be used by the user? What are the solutions the product will provide to the user? What functionality will this product have, right? When a user imputes some data, when a user shows some kind of response to the product, how will the product interact? How will the product adjust its functionality to suit the user? That is the user experience. Now, the user interface involves the visual elements. Now, in the user interface, we are not talking about the overall interaction, right? We are not talking about the response. We are not talking about the overall response of the product to the user. We are talking about each element of that product, right? We are talking about how does each element of that product interact with the user. If the user should click on this icon, how is this icon going to respond? What will be the response? As in, what will be the animation of the icon? How will the icon animate? What will be the response when a user clicks a button, right? Now we are going to base this, we are going to bring down we are going to concentrate more on applications and websites, right? We are going to concentrate more on applications or websites. Now, as a designer, as a UX and a UI designer, if I'm creating an application, I need to understand how each element of my application will interact with my user. Like a button, when my user clicks this button, what is going to happen? When my user toggle on this icon, what is going to happen, right? When my user hover on this area, what will be the response by my product? In this case, an application or a website. These are also known as products. So I need to understand each element of my website and my application, right? Now you need to understand the user flow. What is the user flow? The user flow is a graphical representation on how each sections of a product are navigated by the user. How each section of a product are navigated by the user. How each sections of a product are navigated by a user. The behavior of your product when a user navigates through your product, in this case the software, in this case an application or a website. That's the user flow. Now another thing you should understand as a designer is you need to look out for an idea, right, which comprises of a problem and a solution. As a designer, it is not enough just having the problem, right, or just identifying the problem. It is not enough. You need the solution to that problem, right? You need the solution to that problem. That is like the start of your design process. You need the solution, because when you have the solution to a problem, then you start creating visual elements. You start creating the products. If you don't have a solution to a problem, there will be no visual expression of how your products will look like. No, you need the solution to the problem. Now, the second thing you need to look out as a designer is the research on the idea. Now, the research involves the SWOT, which means the strength, the weakness, the opportunities, and the threats. Now, the weakness, the strength, the opportunities, and the threats is your SWOT analysis. Now, having identified the solution to the problem, you need to understand the strength of your solution. Where and where can this work? You need to also understand the weakness. Where and where can this not work? You need to understand the opportunities. Where can I solidify, or where can I have a vast engagement of my product? Opportunities. Now, the threats, there are other persons who might have created similar products as the one you are about to create. Who are these persons that have created similar products? What can their product do? What can their product offer? What are the functionalities of their products? And how can you make your product, how can you give your product a different functionality that will interest users? Threats. Who are these people doing the same thing that can dent the reach of your product? Who are these people, and what can you do? What different functionality can you attach to your product to make yours unique? Right? SWOT analysis is very important in your research stage. Right? Then you need to look out for competitive analysis. Right? Competitive analysis. Competitive analysis. Now, competitive analysis involves the list of competitors, what they have, and the various sections of their product. Very important. These two analyses are very key. They are very key in your design stage, right? Now, the next thing to do as a designer is your 2D wireframing. The 2D wireframing of the idea, right, which involves drafting out the skeletal structure of the application, which is the solution to the problem. Drafting out the skeletal structure of the application on a piece of paper or a drawing base, right? 2D wireframing. You use your pencil and you use a piece of paper to sketch, drafting or sketching out the skeletal structure of the application on a piece of paper or a drawing base. As simple as that. You've gotten the idea, which involves finding the problem and having the solution. You've done your research, your SWOT analysis and your competitive analysis. Now you have to sketch. After sketching, you have to design. Now, in the designing stage, you transfer this 2D sketch, this 2D design on your paper to the virtual environment using Figma. Now, transferring the 2D wireframe done on a piece of paper to a virtual environment using Figma. Now, this will give your application or the product a much more realistic look. This will give your application or the product a much more realistic look. How is it going to look like? That will be done on the design stage, where you use colors, you use animations, you use some boxes, you use some design ideas to structure your product. Now, these are the key things you need to look at, right? These are the key things you need to look at. Now, this design can also be referred to as the mock-up. The mock-up, which is the actual visuals. The actual visuals of the product. right? Now you understand what UX is, you understand what UI is, you understand what user flow is, you understand that there are stages involved in the design process. You understand that we have the idea stage, which involves the problem and the solution. It involves you searching for the problem and providing solutions. We have the research stage, which involves making your SWOT analysis, making your competitive analysis on the problem and the solution, right? The solution is usually your product. It can be an application, it can be a website. After doing your research, you need to carry out a 2D wireframing, right? You pick up your pencil, you pick up your drawing materials, and you sketch out how you actually want your application or your website to look like, right, on a piece of paper. Now after doing this, you move on to the design stage, which is the mock-up. Now in the mock-up, I would advise you use Figma, right? Like I said, Figma gives you flexibility in design and is user friendly, suitable for design for beginners, right? Now this will give your application or your product a much more realistic look. Now after the design stage, you move to the last stage, which is the creation and the deployment of the idea. The creation and the deployment of the idea. We've designed the product. Now let us bring it to life. Let's make it work. In this stage, it will require you to program. Now for applications or websites, in this stage, as a designer, you would need to take your design to a programmer, right? Someone who can program this application or the website, right? Someone who can look at your design and code them. Our advice as a designer, you need a programming skill, right? You need to learn how to program, you need to learn how to build applications, you need to learn how to build websites, web applications. You need to understand 2 or 3 programming languages that will help you bring your idea to life after designing. So these are the stages involved. I believe you've been able to get a thing or two from this section, right? I believe you've been able to digest everything I've said in this section. In case you have any question, you can throw it in on the comment section. I'll respond to you as soon as possible. Thank you.